Jake Martinez crouched behind the twisted metal of a destroyed tank, sweat dripping into his eyes. The sounds of battle filled the air around him. Explosions shook the ground. Laser fire lit up the dark sky. The smell of burning fuel and something much worse made him want to throw up. This was supposed to be a simple mission. Humans and Zephyrians fighting together against the Void Swarm. The bug-like aliens had been eating planets for months now. Earth and Zephyria had put aside their differences to stop them. Or so everyone thought. Jake checked his rifle and looked around the corner. The Void Swarm creatures looked like giant spiders made of black metal and acid. They moved fast and killed faster. Their claws could cut through armor like paper. Their spit burned through anything it touched. Martinez, get over here! Captain Lisa Brooks shouted over the noise. Jake ran to where she stood with other officers. Her face was hard and angry. Something was wrong. Listen up, people, Brooks said. We just got word from command. The Zephyrians are planning to throw us under the bus. They want to use us as bait while they run away. Jake felt his stomach drop. He looked around for Princess Zara Lynn. She had been with them all week, helping plan attacks and talking between the human and Zephyrian forces. She seemed different from other aliens he had met. She actually cared about saving human lives. That can't be right, Jake said. The princess has been fighting right beside us. Brooks gave him a cold look. Orders are orders, Sergeant. We pull back now. Let the aliens deal with their own mess. Jake watched as human soldiers started packing up. The Zephyrians were doing the same thing on the other side of the battlefield. Everyone was leaving. But where was the princess? Then he saw her. Princess Zarlin was running toward the human lines. Her blue skin looked pale in the dim light. Her breathing mask was cracked. She moved like someone who was hurt but trying not to show it. Wait, she called out in her strange accent. Please wait. There are humans trapped in the medical center. We must help them. But the human soldiers were already moving out. Brooks turned her back on the princess and walked away. Jake felt sick. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. The princess stumbled and fell. Green blood seeped from a cut on her arm. Jake looked around. No one else was going to help her. The Zephyrian soldiers were too far away and also leaving. Danny, Jake called to his best friend. Something's not right here. Danny Kim looked at the princess, then at Jake. Orders are orders, man. We need to go. Jake made a choice that would change everything. He broke away from his unit and ran toward the princess. Behind him, he heard Brooks yelling his name. He didn't stop. The princess looked up as he reached her. Her large dark eyes were full of pain and confusion. Why are they leaving? She asked. The humans in the medical center. They will die. I don't know, Jake said, helping her stand. But we're not leaving you here. That's when the ground exploded next to them. A group of Void Swarm creatures had found them. Their acid spit hissed through the air. Jake grabbed the princess and pulled her behind a broken wall. Can you run? He asked. She nodded, but Jake could see she was lying. Her breathing was getting worse. The crack in her mask was bigger now. Jake knew that Zephyrians couldn't breathe the air on this planet without help. They ran through the ruins of what used to be a city. Buildings lay in pieces everywhere. The Void Swarm had destroyed almost everything. Behind them, Jake could hear the creatures following. Their metal legs clicked on the broken ground. Jake's radio crackled. Martinez, get back here now. That's an order. Brooks was angry. Jake turned off the radio. There was no going back now. They reached an old mining building that looked empty. Jake helped the princess inside and barred the door. She collapsed against a wall, gasping for air. Her breathing mask was making strange noises. I cannot breathe properly, she said between gasps. The mask is broken. Jake looked at his own air supply. He had an emergency backup that could work for both of them, but only for a little while. He connected it to her mask and watched her breathing get easier. Why did you help me? She asked. Your people think I am the enemy now. Jake thought about that. He had been a soldier for 6 years. He had always followed orders, but sometimes orders were wrong. Because leaving someone to die is wrong, he said, no matter who they are. Outside, they could hear the Void Swarm creatures searching for them. The princess closed her eyes. Green tears ran down her blue cheeks. My own people left me too, she whispered. Commander Vextar told them I was already dead. He wanted this war to continue. Peace does not make him powerful. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. Both sides had been played. Someone wanted humans and Zephyrians to hate each other. The princess had been trying to save human lives, and both armies had abandoned her for it. The breathing equipment beeped a warning. They were running out of air. Jake looked around the empty building. There had to be something here he could use. He was good at fixing things, at making something work from broken pieces. But as he searched through old mining equipment, Jake realized something terrible. Even if he could fix the princess's breathing mask, they were trapped. Both armies thought they were traitors now. The Void Swarm was hunting them, and they were running out of time. Princess Zaralyn looked at him with those big dark eyes. "I am sorry I got you into this," Jake shook his head. "You didn't get me into anything. I chose to help, and I'd do it again." Outside, the clicking of metal legs was getting closer. The Zephyrian medical ship lay broken in a crater like a dead metal bird. Jake had been carrying Princess Zaralyn for 4 hours now. His arms ached and his legs felt like rubber, but he kept moving. The air tank on her back was almost empty. "How much further?" he asked, though he could see the ship himself. "We are almost there," Zaralyn whispered. Her voice was so weak he could barely hear her. "But Jake, I think someone is following us." Jake had felt it too. For the last hour he had heard sounds behind them, not the clicking of Void Swarm creatures, but the careful footsteps of soldiers. Someone was hunting them. He found a place to hide behind some broken rocks and set the princess down gently. Through his binoculars he could see human soldiers moving through the ruins behind them. His heart sank when he recognized the leader. Danny Kim was leading the search team. Jake's best friend was hunting him like a criminal. "Target is somewhere in this area." Danny's voice came through on a radio frequency Jake remembered. "Command wants them brought back alive for questioning." Jake felt sick. Danny thought he was a traitor. His best friend, who had saved his life a dozen times, now believed Jake had kidnapped an alien princess and turned against humanity. "We should keep moving," Zaralyn said. She had seen the pain in Jake's face. "Your friend does not know the truth. He is only doing what he thinks is right." Jake nodded and picked her up again. But as they got closer to the medical ship, he saw more problems. Zephyrian soldiers were also moving through the area. They were coming from the other direction, trying to cut off any escape route. "Princess, there are Zephyrian forces ahead," Jake said. "Those are Vextar soldiers," she said after looking through the binoculars. "They wear his symbol. They will kill us both if they find us." Jake crouched behind the ship's broken wing and studied the situation. The medical ship was in the middle of an open area. Danny's team was behind them. Vextar's soldiers were ahead, and Zaralyn had maybe 20 minutes of air left. "I have to get to that ship," Jake said, "even if it means fighting my way through." "No," Zaralyn said firmly. "Too many people will die. There has to be another way." Jake thought about it. Then he had an idea. It was crazy and dangerous, but it might work. "Can you contact those Zephyrian soldiers?" he asked, "on their radio frequency?" "Yes, but why would I want to?" "Because we're going to tell them the truth. And hope that some of them still care about their princess more than they fear Vexitar." Jake helped Zaralyn set up her communicator. She spoke in the Zephyrian language, her voice getting stronger as she talked. Jake couldn't understand the words, but he could hear the authority in her voice. She sounded like royalty giving orders. When she finished, she looked worried. "I told them who I am and what Vextar has done. Some of them believed me. Others did not. There may be fighting among them soon." "Good," Jake said. "Confusion is what we need." He was right. Within minutes, Jake could hear arguing voices from the Zephyrian position. Some soldiers were demanding to see the princess. Others were calling her a fake. The arguing got louder and turned into shouting. Jake used the distraction to move closer to the ship. He carried Zaralyn carefully, staying low and moving from cover to cover. They were almost there when everything went wrong. A Zephyrian soldier spotted them and opened fire. The blast hit the ground next to Jake, throwing dirt in his face. He rolled behind a piece of wreckage, still holding the princess. "Jake Martinez," Danny's voice called out from behind them. "Put down your weapons and surrender. We're here to help." Jake wanted to call back, to explain everything to his friend. But he knew Danny wouldn't believe him, and even if he did, orders were orders. Danny would have to take them both back for questioning, and Zaralyn would die before they reached human command. More shots were fired. The Zephyrian soldiers were shooting at each other now. Some were trying to reach the princess, others were trying to stop them. It was chaos. Jake used the confusion to make a final dash for the medical ship. He ran as fast as he could while carrying Zaralyn. Bullets and laser fire lit up the air around them. He felt something hot burn across his shoulder but kept running. They made it inside the ship just as Zara Lynn's air tank ran empty. She collapsed, gasping for breath in the toxic air. Jake frantically searched through the medical equipment, looking for anything that could help her breathe. The ship had been stripped by scavengers, but not completely. Jake found pieces of Zephyrian breathing equipment scattered around. None of it worked by itself, but maybe he could put something together. Outside, the fighting was getting worse. Jake could hear Danny trying to restore order among the human soldiers while Zephyrian forces split into two groups, those loyal to the princess and those following Vextar's orders. Jake worked faster than he had ever worked in his life. He connected wires, jury-rigged power systems, and improvised connections between different pieces of equipment. Zara Lynn was turning blue now, her body shutting down from lack of proper air. Finally, the crude breathing system sparked to life. Jake placed the mask over her face and watched as she took her first real breath in minutes. But he could tell immediately that this system was even worse than what they had before. It was loud, power-hungry, and unstable. "It will not last long," Zara Lynn said weakly once she could speak. "It doesn't have to last long," Jake said. "Just long enough." But as he said it, Jake realized something terrible. The breathing system was connected to the ship's main power. If they left the ship, the system would stop working. And unlike his previous fixes, this one couldn't be made portable. The princess was now trapped here, completely dependent on this one machine to stay alive. "I cannot leave," she said, understanding the same thing. "I am now a prisoner of this machine." Jake felt like screaming. Every time he solved one problem, two more appeared. Now Zara Lynn was alive but trapped, and outside both armies were hunting for them. That's when Jake's radio crackled to life. It was a general broadcast on all frequencies. "Attention all forces," a cold voice said. Jake recognized it as Commander Vextar. "The human terrorist Jake Martinez has kidnapped Princess Zara Lynn and is holding her hostage. He is armed and extremely dangerous. Kill him on sight. The princess is already dead. She died trying to escape from the terrorist. This is an official order from Zephyrian High Command." Jake stared at the radio in shock. Vextar was telling everyone that Zara Lynn was already dead. That meant no one would look for her, and it made Jake into a murderer in the eyes of both species. "He is covering his tracks," Zara Lynn said bitterly. "If I am already dead, no one will question why I disappeared. And if you are a terrorist, no one will believe anything you say." Through the ship's broken windows, Jake could see the fighting outside was ending. The soldiers loyal to Vextar had won. They were rounding up the others and restraining them. Soon they would search the ship. Jake checked his weapons. He had his rifle and a few explosives left. Not much against two armies. "You should go," Zara Lynn said. "Leave me here and escape. Tell someone the truth about what happened." "No," Jake said firmly. "I'm not leaving you again. I am already dead according to my own people." "What does it matter?" "It matters to me," Jake said. "And it should matter to everyone. You were trying to save human lives when this started. That means something." Outside, Jake could hear Danny's voice again. His friend was arguing with the Zephyrian commander, demanding to search the ship for survivors. Danny still thought he was on a rescue mission. Jake made a decision. He grabbed his radio and switched to Danny's private frequency. "Danny, this is Jake. Do not respond. Just listen." He could see his friend stiffen through the window, but Danny was smart enough not to give away that he was hearing from Jake. "I did not kidnap the princess. She was abandoned by both armies because someone wanted the war to continue. She was trying to save human lives. I have proof, but no one will listen. Be careful who you trust." Jake turned off the radio before Danny could respond. It wasn't much, but maybe it would plant a seed of doubt in his friend's mind. The Zephyrian soldiers were getting closer to the ship. Jake could hear their metal boots on the broken ground outside. In a few minutes they would find them. Jake looked at Princess Zara Lynn, trapped by the breathing machine that kept her alive. She looked back at him with those big dark eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything you have done. For not giving up on me when everyone else did." Jake gripped his rifle tighter. "This isn't over yet, Princess." "Not by a long shot." Outside, the first soldier appeared at the ship's entrance. Jake took a deep breath and prepared to fight for both their lives. Dr. Helen Carter stared at the data on her computer screen and frowned. Something was very wrong with the official reports about the battle 3 weeks ago. The numbers didn't add up. As a xenobiologist studying void swarm weapons, Helen had access to all the battlefield analysis. According to the reports, both humans and Zephyrians had betrayed each other at the same time. But the timeline made no sense. Computer, show me communication logs from the battle, she said. The data showed that Human Command received intelligence about Zephyrian betrayal exactly 17 minutes before. Zephyrian Command received similar intelligence about humans. That was too convenient to be real. Helen had worked with Princess Zara Lynn before the battle. The young alien had been genuinely excited about cooperation between their species. She had spent hours learning about human culture and asking thoughtful questions about Earth. She didn't seem like someone who would plan a betrayal. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Danny Kim couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Jake's radio message. His friend had sounded desperate but not crazy. And Jake had never lied to him before. Danny pulled up the files about Jake's supposed crimes. According to the reports, Jake had kidnapped Princess Zara Lynn during the retreat. But Danny remembered that day differently. He remembered Jake running toward the princess to help her, not to capture her. Something's not right here, Danny muttered to himself. The next morning brought news that changed everything. A Zephyrian distress signal had been detected from the ruins of an old industrial complex. A science team was trapped there, surrounded by void swarm creatures. We should mount a rescue mission, Danny suggested to his commander. Negative, came the reply. The Zephyrians betrayed us. Let them save their own people. But Danny noticed something interesting. On the long-range scanners, there were 2 human heat signatures near the Zephyrian distress signal. Someone was already there. Jake heard the distress call too. He and Princess Zara Lynn had moved to a new hiding place after escaping from the medical ship. Her breathing equipment was working, but barely. Jake had to fix it every few hours. Those are my people calling for help, Zara Lynn said when she heard the signal. Scientists, not soldiers. They have done nothing wrong. Jake studied the tactical situation through his binoculars. 5 Zephyrian scientists were trapped in a building. About 20 void swarm creatures surrounded them. It would be a hard fight, and Jake was just one person. We can't help them, Jake said. I'm sorry, but it's too dangerous. Please, Zara Lynn said. If we save Zephyrian lives, it will prove that you are not a terrorist. Some of my people will start to believe the truth. Jake thought about it. She was right. Action spoke louder than words. If he could save those scientists, maybe it would start to change some minds. Okay, he said, but we do this my way. Jake was good at demolitions, and he had learned a lot about void swarm behavior over the past weeks. The creatures were smart, but they followed patterns. They could be tricked if you knew how. He set up explosive charges around the building where the scientists were trapped, not to kill the creatures directly, but to collapse part of the structure and create a distraction. While the swarm was focused on the explosion, Jake snuck in through a back entrance. The Zephyrian scientists were terrified when they saw him. They had heard the reports about the human terrorist who had killed their princess. I am here to help, Jake said in the few words of Zephyrian that Zara Lynn had taught him. The lead scientist, an older female named Dr. Kithera, backed away from him. You are the one who murdered Princess Zara Lynn. No, Jake said. She is alive. She is safe. And she sent me to save you. Dr. Kithera looked confused. That is impossible. Commander Vextar told us she was dead. Jake activated his communicator. Princess, please talk to them. Zara Lynn's voice came through clearly, speaking in rapid Zephyrian. Jake couldn't understand the words, but he could see the effect on the scientists. Their eyes went wide with shock and then relief. My princess, Dr. Kithera exclaimed. We thought you were dead. I am alive because this human saved me, Zara Lynn said. Now let him save you too. The rescue was dangerous but successful. Jake used guerrilla tactics he had learned in training, moving the scientists in small groups while the void swarm was distracted by his explosions. His knowledge of human military tactics combined with Princess Zara Lynn's understanding of Zephyrian science created a plan that worked. When they reached safety, Dr. Kithera knelt before Jake in the traditional Zephyrian way of showing respect. You have saved our lives and proved your honor, she said. What can we do to repay this debt? Help me spread the truth, Jake said. Tell people what really happened. Dr. Kithera nodded. I will contact others who serve the true royal family, not Vextar's lies. Within hours, word began to spread through underground Zephyrian communication networks. Princess Zara Lynn was alive. A human had saved her and then risked his life to save other Zephyrians. The official story about betrayal and terrorism was falling apart. Dr. Helen Carter intercepted some of these communications. Her translation software was good enough to understand the basics. A human soldier was protecting Princess Zara Lynn. They were both alive and both proving that the official story was wrong. Helen made a decision that could end her career. She hacked into classified files and found what she was looking for: communication logs showing that Commander Vextar had sent false intelligence to human command. Video footage proving that Princess Zara Lynn had been trying to evacuate human civilians, not betray them. She packaged all the evidence and sent it to Danny Kim, along with a message. "Your friend Jake Martinez is a hero, not a traitor. Help me prove it." Danny stared at the evidence Helen had sent him. It was all there. The proof that someone had manipulated both sides into abandoning each other. The proof that Jake had been telling the truth. But before he could act on it, alarms started blaring throughout the human base. Void swarm creatures were attacking in massive numbers. This wasn't a random raid. It was a coordinated assault on both human and Zephyrian positions. "All units, prepare for battle," Captain Brooks shouted over the intercom. "This is the big one." As Danny suited up for battle, he received a priority message on his communicator. It was from Jake. "Danny, the swarm is planning something big. I've been watching their movements for weeks. They're going to hit the evacuation sites where civilians are gathering, both human and Zephyrian. If our armies don't work together, everyone dies." Danny looked at the tactical displays. Jake was right. The swarm was moving toward the evacuation sites, not the military bases. Thousands of innocent people were about to die. He made a choice that would change everything. Danny forwarded Jake's message to Captain Brooks along with all the evidence Helen had given him. "Captain," he said over the radio, "I have new intelligence about the swarm attack. And I have proof that we've been lied to about the retreat 3 weeks ago." There was a long pause. Then Brooks came back on the radio, her voice tight with anger. "Get to my office now." When Danny arrived, he found Captain Brooks staring at multiple screens showing the evidence. Her face was pale. "If this is true," she said slowly, "then I made the worst mistake of my career. I abandoned innocent people because I believed a lie." "It's true, Captain," Danny said. "And right now, Jake Martinez is the only person who really understands how the swarm thinks. We need his help." Brooks was quiet for a long moment. Then she activated her communicator and sent a message on Jake's frequency. "Sergeant Martinez, this is Captain Brooks. We have reviewed new evidence and we may have made an error in judgment. Can you assist with current tactical situation?" On the other end, Jake looked at Princess Zara Lynn in amazement. After weeks of being hunted as a traitor, his own commander was asking for his help. "Tell her yes," Zara Lynn said. "But tell her the truth comes first. No more lies." Jake keyed his radio. "Captain, I'll help. But first you need to know. Princess Zara Lynn is alive and she has information that could save both our species. Are you ready to listen to the truth?" There was another pause. Then Brooks said, "Yes, Sergeant. We're ready to listen." For the first time in weeks, Jake smiled. Maybe, just maybe, they could turn this disaster into something better. But first they had to survive the biggest void swarm attack anyone had ever seen. And that would require both species working together, just like Princess Zara Lynn had always believed they could. 3 weeks had passed since that terrible day. Jake had learned more about fixing alien breathing equipment than he ever wanted to know. Every morning he woke up worried that this would be the day he couldn't keep Princess Zara Lynn alive. The old mining building had become their home. Jake had found tools and spare parts scattered around. With these, he built a system that cleaned the air and made it safe for the princess to breathe. But it was not perfect. The machine made loud noises and broke down every few days. "The mixture is wrong again," Zara Lynn said one morning. Her voice was weak. "I can taste the metal in the air." Jake crawled under the machine to check the filters. His hands were always dirty now from working with the equipment. "I know, I'm trying to fix it. Your people need different air than humans do." He had learned that Zephyrians needed more nitrogen and less oxygen than humans. Too much oxygen made them sick. Too little made them die. Jake had to get it exactly right, and he only had human equipment to work with. "Tell me about your home," Jake said as he worked. Talking helped pass the time and kept both of them from thinking about their situation. "Zephyria has 3 moons, the princess said. "The air smells like flowers there." "Not like this place," she coughed. "What about Earth?" "I grew up on a farm," Jake said. "We had cows and chickens. My mom made the best apple pie in the county. He smiled, remembering. Seems like a long time ago now. Zara Lynn was quiet for a moment. Do you think we will ever see our homes again? Jake didn't answer. He wasn't sure they would live through another week, let alone make it home. Their routine was simple but hard. Jake spent most of his time fixing the air machine or looking for parts. Zara Lynn tried to help, but she got tired easily. They ate food from old military rations Jake had found. It tasted terrible, but it kept them alive. On quiet nights, they talked. Jake learned that Zara Lynn had never wanted to be a princess. She wanted to be a teacher. She loved learning about other planets and people. That's why she had been so excited about working with humans. My father thinks I am too soft, she said one night. He says a ruler must be hard like stone, but I think being kind makes you stronger, not weaker. Jake agreed with her. He had seen too many officers who thought being mean made them better leaders. It usually just made their soldiers hate them. As the days passed, Jake noticed that Zara Lynn was getting sicker. The air machine was not good enough. She needed proper Zephyrian medical equipment, not his crude fixes. But they were trapped. Going outside meant facing the void swarm creatures that still hunted in the ruins. Then one day something interesting happened. Jake was working on the air machine when he heard voices outside. He grabbed his rifle and moved to the window. 2 Zephyrian soldiers were searching through the rubble nearby. Keep looking, one of them said. Commander Vextar wants proof that the princess is dead. Why does it matter? The other asked. She's been gone for weeks. Because some people are asking questions. They want to know why we left her behind. If we can prove she died fighting the swarm, Vextar looks like a hero instead of a traitor. Jake felt his blood run cold. He looked back at Zara Lynn, who had heard every word. Her face was pale, but her eyes were angry. I knew it, she whispered. Vextar planned this whole thing. After the soldiers left, Zara Lynn told Jake the truth. Commander Vextar wanted to be the ruler of Zephyria. He believed that war made people strong and peace made them weak. He had been against working with humans from the beginning. He fed false information to your Captain Brooks, Zara Lynn said. He made her think we were going to betray you. Then he told our forces that humans had already betrayed us. Both sides left thinking the other had turned against them. Jake felt sick. All those soldiers who had died, all the trust that had been broken, all because one alien wanted power. But why leave you behind? Jake asked. Because I was trying to build real peace between our people. Vextar knew that if I succeeded, no one would follow him into more wars. So he got rid of me. Jake was quiet for a long time. Then he said, we have to stop him. Zara Lynn shook her head. How? We are trapped here. Even if we could escape, who would believe us? Both our governments think we are traitors now. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about his friend Danny, about Captain Brooks, about all the people who thought he had betrayed them. But he also thought about the human soldiers who had been left in that medical center. Had anyone tried to save them? Or had they died because of Vextar's lies? The next morning brought new problems. The air machine was making terrible noises. Jake opened it up and found that a key part had cracked. He tried to fix it, but his hands were shaking. If this part broke completely, Zara Lynn would die in hours. I can fix this, he said, more to himself than to her. I can make it work. But as he worked, alarms started going off. Jake's blood turned to ice. He knew that sound. Void swarm scouts were nearby. They had found the building. We have to go, Jake said, grabbing supplies. Now. I cannot travel far without the machine, Zara Lynn said. Jake looked at the heavy equipment, then at her. She was right. The machine was too big to carry, and she couldn't breathe without it for more than a few minutes. Outside, they could hear the metal clicking of swarm legs getting closer. Jake made a decision. He pulled out his explosives kit and started setting charges around the building. What are you doing? Zara Lynn asked. Buying us time, Jake said, and hopefully taking some of those bugs with us. He helped her put on a small emergency air tank, then picked her up. She was lighter than he expected, but he could feel how weak she had become. They slipped out the back of the building just as the swarm creatures broke down the front door. Jake waited until he heard them all inside, then triggered the explosion. The building collapsed, crushing the creatures underneath, but now they were back where they started. No shelter, limited air, and enemies everywhere. Jake looked at the air gauge on Zara Lynn's tank. Maybe 6 hours of air left, maybe less. There's a crashed Zephyrian ship about 5 miles from here, Zara Lynn said weakly. It might have medical equipment. 5 miles across a landscape full of void swarm creatures. With a dying alien princess who couldn't breathe the air, Jake had done impossible things before, but this seemed too much even for him. Then he looked at Zara Lynn's face. She was scared, but she was trying to be brave. She trusted him to keep her alive. After everything that had happened, after both their peoples had abandoned them, she still believed in him. "Then that's where we're going," Jake said. He picked her up again and started walking toward the horizon. Behind them, more void swarm creatures were coming to investigate the explosion. Time was running out, but Jake Martinez had never learned how to quit. As they walked through the ruins, Zara Lynn whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me." Jake just kept walking. Giving up wasn't in his nature, and he was starting to think that maybe, if they could survive this, they might actually be able to prove the truth about what had happened. They might be able to stop Vextar and save both their peoples from his lies. But first, they had to make it through the next 6 hours. The Void Swarm attack was unlike anything anyone had seen before. Thousands of the creatures moved across the planet like a black wave of death. They weren't just hunting randomly anymore. They had a plan. Jake studied the attack patterns from his hidden position. "They're going for the evacuation sites," he told Captain Brooks over the radio. "Both human and Zephyrian. They want to kill the civilians. How can you be sure?" Brooks asked. "Because I've been watching them for weeks," Jake replied. "They learn from every battle. They know that both our species care about protecting innocent people. If they kill the civilians, they break our will to fight." Princess Zara Lynn was connected to the communication system now. Her voice was weak, but her mind was sharp. "He is right, Captain Brooks. This is exactly what the swarm did on Kepler 438c. They destroyed the evacuation ships first, then hunted down the military forces while they were confused and angry." "What do you recommend?" Brooks asked. Jake looked at the tactical displays Danny had sent him. The situation was bad. Human and Zephyrian forces were still separate, still not trusting each other completely. The swarm would destroy them one by one. "We need a joint strike on their central hive," Jake said. "Both fleets working together. But someone has to get inside and plant charges to bring down their command structure. Without coordination, the swarm creatures become just animals again." "I'll take a team in," Danny volunteered over the radio. "No," Jake said. "It has to be me. I know their patterns better than anyone. And I know where the weak points are." What Jake didn't say was that he had another reason. The mission was probably suicide. The person who went into the hive might not come back out. And Jake had already made peace with that possibility. But first they had to deal with Commander Vextar. The Zephyrian leader was still trying to sabotage any cooperation between the species. He had been spreading lies about the princess being dead and Jake being a terrorist. Dr. Helen Carter had been working with the loyal Zephyrian scientists Jake had rescued. Together they had gathered enough evidence to expose Vextar's crimes. When they presented it to the Zephyrian High Council, even Vextar's supporters had to admit the truth. "Commander Vextar, you are under arrest for treason against the crown," announced General Korthak, the head of the loyal Zephyrian forces. "You will face trial for your crimes against both our species." Vexatar was taken away in chains, still screaming about how peace would make both species weak. But his followers had abandoned him when they learned the truth about what he had done. With Vextar gone, the real work could begin. Both fleets moved into position around the swarm hive. It was a massive structure, like a twisted metal mountain reaching up into the sky. Millions of creatures swarmed around it like angry bees. "Timing has to be perfect," Jake explained to both fleet commanders. "I go in first and plant the charges. When they explode, the swarm will be confused for about 10 minutes. That's when both fleets attack together. Hit them while they can't coordinate." "What about your exit strategy?" Danny asked. Jake was quiet for a moment. "Working on it." Princess Zara Lynn knew what that meant. Jake didn't expect to survive this mission. She grabbed his hand with her own. "There has to be another way," she said. "There is no other way," Jake replied gently. "This is what soldiers do. We protect the people who can't protect themselves." The plan began at dawn. Jake strapped on his equipment and checked his explosives one last time. He had enough charges to bring down the hive's central structure, but he would have to place them manually. The swarm's defenses were too strong for remote detonation. As he prepared to leave, Princess Zara Lynn did something unexpected. She started disconnecting herself from the breathing machine. "What are you doing?" Jake asked in alarm. "I am going with you," she said. "No, you'll die without that machine." I will die anyway if this mission fails, she replied. At least this way I die fighting for something I believe in. Jake tried to argue, but he could see the determination in her eyes. She had made her choice just like he had made his. They entered the hive together. Jake carried a small emergency breathing unit for the princess, but it would only last about an hour. They had to move fast. The inside of the hive was like a nightmare. The walls were covered with a sticky black substance that pulsed like a heartbeat. Strange sounds echoed through the tunnels. The air smelled like death and decay, but Jake had studied the structure for weeks. He knew where to go. They made their way deeper into the hive, avoiding the larger creatures and hiding from patrols. Princess Zaralyn helped by translating the strange sounds the creatures made. She had learned their basic communication patterns during her diplomatic training. They reached the central chamber just as Zaralyn's breathing unit started to fail. The chamber was huge, with a massive organic computer system that controlled all the swarm creatures on the planet. Jake began placing his charges while the princess watched for enemies. How long? She asked, her voice getting weaker. 2 more minutes, Jake said, working as fast as he could. That's when everything went wrong. A massive swarm guardian entered the chamber. It was bigger than any creature they had seen before, with armor like metal plates and claws that could cut through anything. It saw them immediately and let out a roar that shook the entire hive. Jake finished placing the last charge and activated the timer. 5 minutes until detonation, but the guardian was between them and the exit. Run! Jake shouted, pushing Zaralyn toward a side tunnel, but the princess stumbled and fell. Her breathing unit had failed completely. She was suffocating in the toxic air of the hive. Jake made a decision that would define both their lives. He pulled off his own breathing mask and placed it over her face. The hive's atmosphere was poison to humans too, but humans could survive it longer than Zephyrians could. No, Zaralyn protested, trying to give the mask back. Yes, Jake said firmly. This is my choice. He picked her up and ran for the exit. Behind them, the guardian was chasing them, its metal claws sparking against the tunnel walls. Jake's lungs were already burning from the toxic air. His vision was starting to blur. They made it out of the hive just as the charges exploded. The massive structure began collapsing, crushing thousands of swarm creatures. Without their central command, the remaining creatures became confused and disorganized. But Jake collapsed too. He had been breathing poison for too long. As he lay on the ground, gasping for air that wasn't there, he heard the sounds of battle above them. Both fleets were attacking together just as planned. We did it, he whispered to Princess Zaralyn. Both species fighting together, just like you always wanted. Danny Kim was the first to reach them. He had led a rescue team down to the surface as soon as the hive exploded. When he saw Jake lying unconscious and the princess trying to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, he understood everything. Medical team, Danny shouted into his radio. Emergency extraction. Both of them. Jake woke up 3 days later in a hospital ship. Dr. Helen Carter was checking his vital signs while Princess Zaralyn sat beside his bed. She was wearing a new, properly fitted breathing mask, but she had chosen to stay close to him. How do you feel? Dr. Carter asked. Like I got hit by a truck, Jake said honestly, but alive. How's the princess? I am fine, Zaralyn said. Thanks to you. Dr. Carter has created a new breathing system for me. I no longer need the old machines. Jake smiled. So you're free now. You can go home. I could, she agreed, but I think I will stay here for a while. Someone needs to help rebuild the alliance between our species, and I think you and I make a good team. Through the window, Jake could see human and Zephyrian ships working together to clean up the remaining swarm creatures. Soldiers from both species were sharing supplies and treating each other's wounded. It was the cooperation that Princess Zaralyn had always dreamed of. Captain Brooks visited later that day. She looked uncomfortable but determined to do the right thing. Sergeant Martinez, she said formally, I owe you an apology, and more than that, I owe you my thanks. Your actions saved both our species. Just doing my job, Captain, Jake said. No, Brooks replied. You did much more than your job. You did what was right even when it cost you everything. That's not just good soldiering, that's good leadership. She pinned a medal on Jake's hospital gown. By joint order of Earth Command and the Zephyrian High Council, you are hereby awarded the Cross of Valor for extraordinary heroism in the face of enemy action. But the real reward came later, when Danny visited with news from home. Your mom sent a video message, Danny said, handing Jake a tablet. She says she's proud of you. And she wants to know if you're bringing Princess Zaralyn home for dinner when this is all over. Jake laughed. What did you tell her? I told her she should probably make extra apple pie. Princess Zaralyn looked curious. Apple pie? It's a human dessert, Jake explained. My mom makes the best on earth. You'd like it? I would like to try it, she said. And I would like to see your farm with the cows and chickens. Jake smiled. For the first time in weeks, the future looked bright. Both species had learned that they were stronger together than apart. The war against the Void Swarm would continue, but now they would fight it as allies, not as strangers who didn't trust each other. And maybe, just maybe, they could build something better than just an